Hi guys, and welcome to this very brief tutorial where I'm going to demonstrate the animation principle timing of motion. So let's get started, and you're going to load up Adobe Animate, go File, New, and select Full HD. Frame rate, let's change that to 15 and hit OK, or Create, sorry. Once that has happened, come up to this top right hand corner, select Fit in Window so we can see our entire stage. Let's right mouse click and go to Document and Stage Color. I'm going to change that to a light blue. Now, if you're one of my students, I'm going to make available a plain image for you. But if you are not one of my students, that is okay. You can still follow along with this tutorial by either drawing a square, a circle, or importing one of your own images. So let's go to File, Import to Library. We're going to select the plane and open. I'm going to come now to my library panel on the right hand side here, select my plane and drag and drop it onto my stage. I'm going to use these arrows here to minimize my library because I no longer need it. I'm going to come over to my free transform tool or hit Q on the keyboard, but also holding shift, I'm going to reduce the size of my plane because I've realized this one is a little too big. I'm then going to hit V on my keyboard, or if you want, you can select this tool up here. I'm now going to drag my plane off to the left side of my screen, somewhere in the center, so that it is no longer visible on my stage. So what I'm going to start demonstrating for you guys is about how your animation appears can be greatly affected by the number of frames between each major keyframe that you have. So the general rule is less drawing equals a faster movement, more drawing will equal a slower movement. And so since, for example, this plane, I want to first demonstrate to you guys how it can just zoom across the stage. I know I'm not going to need many keyframes for this. So I can come to say keyframe 5 and I can select my plane. So I can come to keyframe 5 first, and then I could go to insert my keyframes, and then I'm going to select my plane and drag it off to the right. And I mean, if you play this now, you're still not going to see anything on your screen. It's literally just going from here to here. We've got to put in an inwards motion. So what I'm going to show you and demonstrate is how we work in ones. And working in ones literally means creating a drawing in every single frame. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm also going to turn on my onion skin so I can see where my last frame was. And I'm going to drag my plane about here, drag it a little more, and then I'm going to drag this one here as well. Then, as you can see, I'm going to press play and you'll see that it just zooms across my screen. I can hit my loop tool here and I can expand that loop out so it loops every single frame, and I can hit play, and as you see it will just zoom across my stage. So that's a pretty fast movement. We don't really need to have it full on detailed in betweens because the movement's so fast that our eyes don't have enough time to see each frame. It will just give us the motion that it is traveling fast across the screen. The next general rule that we have that we can work on is called the rules of twos. Is called working in twos. And this is basically that we have a keyframe, then we have a space in between each keyframe when there's no drawings. So basically what I can do in this demonstration is I can come into frame 1 and I can hit F5 on my keyboard, and I can do that on every single keyframe. Now, as you can see, it's now going to extend out my number of frames to 10 frames. I'm going to push this across, and let's have a look at this loop here. Now, as you can see, my plane is now going across a lot slower. It's not as fast because we've got more frames, and we've been working in twos, but it's also a little choppy, but it's still safe enough that we could probably use it. The next one is called working in threes. And this is where we have two blank keyframes in between each major action. And as you can see, this has extended it out to 15 frames, which is exactly 1 second. I'm going to loop this out and you're going to see the motion and how it slowed the plane right down. It also looks really choppy. Now we could come in between and we could say, hey, this is my first pass, and I could come in between here and work out some in-betweens. But by doing our in-betweens now, we're also working in ones. We're saying, yep, I like the speed of my plane like that. I'm now going to work in ones and fix up little bits in between to give it a smoother motion, as you can see here. And I won't need to do these two because they're off screen. And so if I press play, now we've got a smoother motion as the plane comes across. So we can really choose which one we want to work in. We just have to look at what works really well. Um, so if you want a plane to zoom across the screen, the first one that we did at just 5 to 6 frames would work quite nicely. But if you want it so that the plane is a bit slower, you've got here with working in threes. You can do exactly the same in working with twos. It's basically your choice as an animator to choose which one you prefer the look of. So that's basically it. That is basically timing of motion and just stuff to really keep in mind when you're going through and you're animating. And I hope you have a lot of fun.